watching the show, it's hard to believe that tomorrow night is the 50th anniversary of the Beatles' first appearance here in America on The Ed Sullivan Show. It was the start of something very big. I sat down with Pattie Boyd, first wife of the late George Harrison, who well remembers how it was back in those Beatlemania days. Pattie Boyd, who became the first Mrs. George Harrison, didn't start out a Beatles fan.
I wasn't totally enamored.
You weren't, possessed by Beatlemania.
I wasn't.
The daughter of a British Air Force pilot, she was a 20-year-old model in 1964 when her agent told her to report to London's Paddington Station to play a bit part in a film. When you look back on it now, your life changed right here.
Radically.
I went back with her to the station for CBS Sunday Morning in 2006, to where filming started for the Beatles' first movie, A Hard Day's Night. Pattie played a schoolgirl who encounters the Beatles on a train. She had just one word in the film.
Prisoners, convict and transit.
But she caught the attention of George Harrison. How did you connect with George?
Well, there was a lot of sort of eyeing each other up. And then we sort of sat next to each other at lunch. That was very exciting because I thought he was quite wonderful and very interesting. I'd never heard anyone speak with a Liverpool accent before.
Really?
Yeah, so this was kind of exotic for me.
Did he ask you to marry you that day?
He did.
The first day?
Yeah.
And what did you think of that?
No, well, I obviously didn't think anything because I just dismissed it because I didn't think it was real, So I thought it was like part of sort of Liverpudlian humour,
But in 1966, they did marry. He would write the song Something about her. And unlike the rest of the world, Pattie would see the Beatles from the inside out.
They became my friends, We'd all go to the cinema together. We'd go to clubs.
You didn't think of them as the Beatles?
No.
To you, what were they like?
I loved hanging out with them because they were just tremendous fun. And they were very smart, very witty, very quick. And it was exciting being with them.
And for a time, the Fab Four were on top of it all.
They were very competitive with each other, which created the huge energy that kept them going, faster and faster. And it had to break up at some point, I think. Four people with just really strong personalities and all equally talented.
The Beatles split in 1970. Boyd and Harrison would part 4 years after that. She'd later marry Eric Clapton. When you look back on all of that now, how does it seem to you?
It feels as if I'm living a second life now. That was such a almost like a fantasy life.
Do you miss it?
Sometimes I do. Yes.
It's amazing. After the Beatles were on the Ed Sullivan Show, which was February of '64, it was only 2 months later that they had the top 5 songs in this country. I mean, they basically took over American music for a period of time.
Fascinating interview.
Yeah.
She seems like a cool lady.
She's a very cool lady. And Pattie will be part of a CBS News panel tomorrow night. It also includes Mick Jones of Foreigner and Chic's Nile Rodgers celebrating 50 years of the Beatles in America. It'll be broadcast online live from the Ed Sullivan Theater tomorrow evening at 6:30 Eastern Time. You can catch it on cbsnews.com. Then Paul and Ringo perform together along with many other artists on the Beatles, The Night That Changed America, a Grammy Salute. That's tomorrow night at 8, 7 Central, right here on CBS.
Coming up.